Hey guys, subscribe for daily knife content. And if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the very cool and very inexpensive CRKT Razelcliffe. How cool. This is a very, very inexpensive knife. It will be linked right down in the description. I'll just tell you guys right now, this is a $27 knife. Pretty cool. I have a lot to say about it. First off, this knife was sent to me by the good, the great, the Nick Shabazz. I don't know why you wouldn't be subscribed to him, but if you're not, make sure you subscribe to Nick Shabazz. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for my Patreon right down in the description. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. All right, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Gosh, my tape measure is way over here today. Here we go. Not a big knife. Overall length of the Razelcliffe coming in at, what do you call that? 5.3? It's like 5. Well, I keep slipping over here. It's actually, now it's 5 1/4. The overall length is 5 1/4. Cutting edge, we're going to call that maybe 2 1/8, maybe. Or I'm sorry, the blade length is 2 1/8. The cutting edge is actually under 2 inches. It's like 1.8, 1.85. So it's going to be very legal in a lot of places. Some people will be really, really happy with that. This knife and its size, it's not, like a lot of people might jump and think, well, they're trying to cater to people who have restrictions in certain areas. I think partially, but also as just a small, inexpensive utility object. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. I don't have a problem with the with this size, but we'll talk about it. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and its little brother, the Ontario Rat Model 2. So you can see here, yeah, this is definitely not a big object, not at all. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3? You can see here once again, even up against the Para 3, still looking pretty teeny tiny. And last but not least, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. And its little brother, the Mini Griptilian. And again, even the Mini Griptilian looking big next to this guy. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. This is a steel frame lock. Not a thick knife, not at all. In fact, it's actually a little bit thinner than the Para 3, so that's kind of neat. Let's do length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Yeah, no issue here. Even with the flipper tab, it's not a tall, long, thick, wide, none of that. It's just not a, it's not a big object, right? Let's go ahead and do a hardware check on this guy. God, all my stuff is like way over here. What's going on today? As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive, very recommendable. You can find them right down in the description. I'm going to guess that pivot is, once again, a T8, because that just seems to be the flavor for stuff like this. Yeah, T8, and then the rest of the screws are T6. And there's only 2 because they go all the way through to the other side. Some people don't like that. I actually don't care. But generally, the main concern is when it's a steel screw going into a titanium frame. Remember, this is a steel frame. They go all the way through. Honestly, I just don't care. And I don't think it's an issue in any case. Pretty minimal hardware. This is a very, very simple construction. If you want to take it apart, it should be pretty easy. Absolutely. I mean, the only types of knives that are going to be easier to take apart than this are like the CRKTs with the field strip technology. So no big deal there. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. Are we going to stand up? Yeah, we are. Okay. Blade stock thickness on this guy, not going to be super duper thick, I'm sure. Coming in at, yeah, there you go. Not a thick blade. Completely and totally understandable. And weight on this guy, the only reason it's going to be a little bit heavier than you might guess, or some people might guess, is because it's made out of steel. So, weight, 3.28 ounces. Some people go, oh my gosh, it's so heavy. At 3 ounces, for me, anything at 3 ounces or less is ultra lightweight. I'm not so big on the ratio. Some people are. Do with this information what you will. For me, this is just not a difficult object to carry, right? 3 ounces, 3 1/4 ounces, no big deal. Okay, so this is, the Razelcliffe is actually a collaboration with CRKT, and I believe it's John Graham from Graham Knives. You guys remember the Graham Razel, right? That big, hulking, American-made mid-tech knife that has almost an exact 90-degree blade where it's kind of like a sharpened chisel. That's actually something that Nick Shabazz, I remember watching that review, when it came out, the original, when Nick talked about it. Not that he made that knife famous or anything like that. I mean, it was really interesting knife back during the time where American mid-techs were like, oh, everything was like stonewashed. That's where I got my tastes from during that time period where every American mid-tech was around $500, $600, something like that. And they were all stonewashed titanium and S35VN or CTS XHP. Periodically, you'd get M390 in there, right? I mean, it hasn't changed a whole lot, in terms of materials that we prefer. It's just who manufactures them and what's popular, right? It has changed a little bit. But anyways, yeah, so this is a John Graham design, much smaller, and instead of 90 degrees, we actually have more of a sort of reverse Tanto Warncliffe type thing, which is neat because it actually gives it more of a puncture tip. So that's cool. We're looking at sort of it's like an acid washed stainless steel, and honestly, everything looks great. At this price point, $27, it's really hard for me to be ultra nitpicky. Once you go under $30, it's like, what is it that I'm really critiquing? I mean, like, what are my, standards here for sub $30, right? Now, despite that, the fit and finish is actually really good. Everything looks great. All these corners are nicely knocked down. I kind of like this little frag texturing in here. It looks good, right? The detent is tuned really well. The action is really impressive. It's not, we're not going to have perfect consistency inside here, right? It's pretty smooth. I can feel it a little bit, right? But the main thing here is the detent strong enough? Is the flipper tab shaped correctly? Can I get a good pull? Can I get a good deployment? And the answer is yes. It's also pretty easy to disengage because they've knocked this area out right here, and you can see that the frame on the other side is sticking up just a little bit, and it's been softened down. So repeated disengagement and deployment over and over again, yeah, I mean, it's really easy to do. This is a small knife, so as far as ergonomics go, you can just barely get 3 fingers on it. Personally, I kind of have this thing about knives that I'm going to carry. If I can't get a full purchase on them, I'm probably not going to carry it, but there's something, I don't know. This thing has its own cool factor. These Graham knives with these sort of sharpened chisel blades. It's not actually a chisel grind, by the way. It just looks like a chisel. A chisel grind would be a completely different. This is a conventional V grind, right? It just looks like a chisel. Ouch. We got to talk about that. I now have wounded both hands doing that. Jeez, I did it on camera. All right, so the left hand is probably not going to make much of an appearance for the rest of this video. I think that I actually have, do I still have Damasteel Band-Aids in here? Ah, I do. Yeah, whoever sent me the Damasteel Band-Aids, thank you very much. They're going to get used in the middle of this review. That is definitely something that we have to talk about. I did that exact same thing once with my right hand, and now I've done it with my left hand, so it absolutely needs to be talked about. I'm fully aware that I could totally just edit this part out, but I think it's actually going to be funnier if I leave it in. All I need to do is get that out of there. There we go, and let's go ahead and just put that right there. Yay! Okay, so this does have good flipping action. It's small. For whatever reason, sometimes I get this part of my hand, and you can you see it right there? That's where I caught myself last time. I literally did the exact same thing over here. Now, this could be user error, right? It's small, so I'm trying to brace while I'm trying to flip it. Because this area is sharp, sometimes I'm stupidly covering the top of that with my hand, and I'll go to flip it, and it will cut me on the way out. This is an adaptation thing. This is, obviously I'm a slow learner because I just did it again with my left hand. Fair warning. You're going to have to find a bracing position that's more like this when you flip it, which seems obvious. It seems like it should be a natural position for your hand, but for whatever reason, when I'm not paying attention, I do this. So don't do that. I don't know if I'm going to call that a design flaw. I think that's more so me being dumb, but because that edge up there is sharp on the way out, there's a chance you'll cut yourself. If you think about it, normally this area right here is more of a swedge. It's not sharp, right? And we just have an area where you could sort of grab like this and go down. So No, I'm not going to call that a design flaw. Just be wary of that. Use my stupidity, as a learning example, right? Don't put your hand over the top of that. It's definitely, something that can happen. Action's good though. Disengagement of the lock bar, good. All that. The blade shape is just super, super cool. And by the way, I was talking about ergonomics. Yeah, it is a 3-finger position. There's cool factor here. That's kind of why I'm like, maybe I'd make an exception. There are definitely knives, that I will make an exception for if the cool factor is just off the charts. And there is something really, really cool about this, right? It's mainly in the blade. We've got a pretty robust geometry, honestly, even considering how thin it is. There's a flat that carries out, I don't know, about 70% the length of the blade. We've got a nice wedge, right? This area is not sharp. It starts to get sharp right here. And people are going to point out, some of those bevels are kind of uneven. Again, remember, $27 knife. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It absolutely is sharp. There's no question about it. What's the steel? The steel is 8CR13 MOV. Oh my God, $27 knife. Honestly, yeah, I know you can get D2 at this price point. In this territory, as long as it's not like 420J or something like that, I'm not super duper ultra concerned with what the steel is, right? Auss8, I think 8CR13 MOV is roughly the Chinese equivalent of Auss8. Okay, that's fine. I don't really care, honestly. Blade looks good. This is we kind of see this finish at this price point, right? We just do. I don't know if it's easy, if it's efficient, right? Cost efficient or whatever. But we see this finish, and honestly, I don't think it looks bad. It's going to always look like this. Whether you get it dirty, keep it clean, it's just always going to look like this. There's no sharpening choil. Okay, whatever. There's nothing in the cutting path, right? This isn't necessarily the sliciest geometry ever. I mean, this is a utility pocket knife. This is a pocket knife. This isn't a pocket knife that you baby. This isn't a collector piece, right? It's something that you get out and you use in the moment. Honestly, this is the type of knife that I would just keep in my truck. The little, the little pull-out thing that's where I keep my Leatherman, and I've got a little flashlight in there, right? Maybe a tiny screwdriver. This just kind of the pocket knife that I get out. It's not going to be like the dedicated, like use it for everything knife, but in the moment, right? Depending on what it is I'm going to do, I probably wouldn't shy away from much with something like this. It's not necessarily massively overbuilt or capable of withstanding any type of abuse, but it is a knife that, because of the cost and because of what it's made out of, which is just steel, and because of the blade, I'm probably just going to kind of use it for whatever. I'm not going to be too concerned. And because of the blade geometry, it's not likely the tip's going to snap. I do like that they did more of a reverse tanto thing here, because you can get the tip in, you can actually puncture some things. It's not going to be the best puncturer in the entire world, but you can do that a lot easier than some of the other John Graham designs where it's almost a 90-degree angle, right? So I kind of like that. It says CRKT on one side, and then on the other side we have Razelcliffe, trademark, Graham design, 4021, and then the bearings thing. Okay, it's not really that big of a deal, right? Can't really complain too much. No, my Band-Aid's coming off. Not a great place for a Band-Aid right here. Anyways, we have a little backspacer. I'm going to guess that is some sort of plastic. Again, it doesn't really bother me. It's got some jimping that's raised up above the frame, which is kind of nice. Going to the other side, we have an excellent pocket clip. Look at this. That's just perfect, right? Not recessed into the frame, and for whatever reason, they decided to not mill out holes on the other side for left-handed people, but okay. The position that it's in, tip-up carry, right, carries completely and totally deep. There's a nice bill at the end that's rounded off, continuous rise, so should be easy in and out of the pants no matter how thick the pocket seam is, and it's nice and smooth on the surface, so easy. The screws are even recessed. It's great. Steel frame lock, for whatever reason, there's a gigantic gap on this side. That always looks ugly. I don't understand why they do that. I don't have a frame lock here handy to demonstrate what I mean, but why these big gaps, right? I know I'm criticizing a knife that is only $27, but Kershaw does this sometimes too, on these steel frame locks. It's just, why is there such a huge gap? It just doesn't look good, right? You can see everything. Stuff can get in there on the face of the blade a little bit easier, and it gets carried through, right? Not that big of a deal, but it's kind of ugly. I don't really like it. Lockup is sitting something like 65, maybe 70%, and the blade centering is It's not perfect. Do I think I could fix it? Absolutely. It's just a steel frame lock with a pivot and 2 body screws. You guys all know the trick. If you haven't watched my video about centering a blade, that's really, really easy to do. Lockup. We have a little teeny tiny bit of side to side. Maybe that's why it's off center. Let's go ahead and give that a little crank here on the pivot. Again, T8. Just going to check it here real quick. A little bit of a turn here. Let's see. Did we come back to center? Not really. And it's a little bit slower on the action now, so we have to loosen it up. Let's see. Nope, still a little bit tight on the action. We do have a free spinning pivot, I can tell you that. Well, no, wait, no, it's wanting to come out. Never mind, we do have a captive pivot. Okay, we're good. Yeah, it just needed a teeny tiny little turn. But the blade isn't centered. It's something that you'll it's not going to surprise me if you get one of these brand new and it's not perfectly on center. At this price point, it's like, oh, I'd like everything to be centered, but I'm not going to be so hypercritical about it, right? But it will lock up solid. Main thing here, no blade play up and down, left and right. I did get it solid, but you know, it's just one of those things you're probably going to have to pay attention to the pivot. Do we have an internal stop pin? What do we got here? Nope, it is external, right there. It's flat, no big deal. So yeah, there you go. Nitpicks, it's tiny, right? Some people aren't going to like how heavy it is for how small it is. Definitely watch out for that edge up there. Do not cover it with your palm. I've cut both of my palms now doing that. But again, I think that's more my stupidity and just not being used to the knife, right? If you're used to smaller knives, you have smaller hands, different shaped hands than mine, you might not have a problem with it. There's a big ugly gap on the frame, on the actual lock. I'm not sure why they insist on doing that, right? Not everybody's going to love the 8CR13 MOV thing, right? I mean, would it be cooler if they made a different version of this in D2 steel, and maybe they made it G10 on one side, maybe with a steel liner lock or something like that? Yeah, I think I would probably enjoy that a little bit more. I'd probably pay a little bit more money for it too. I think it'd be excellent if they did a lighter version for people who are concerned with those ratios, which is a lot of people, understandable. I'm not one of them, but I get why people are concerned with that. G10, steel liner lock, right? But we've got a different steel like D2, and maybe it ends up being something like the Pilar. I've always messed that up. It ends up being $45, $50, something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. I think people would like it. But in its current form, for $27, I can't really argue with this. My biggest thing here is watch out for that other edge. The utility advantage here is that you've got sort of a kind of a scraper, and then you've got a main cutting edge. It's kind of nice that you've got an edge that's got 2 different, you know, I mean, depending on what it is you're doing, if you're trying to like scrape tape off of a flat surface or something like that, it's nice to have a pocket knife that can do that a little bit more efficiently and still cut at the same time, right? I mean, this is basically just going to be in the moment package opener, just do little teeny tiny things with it, but it's going to do it. And if you need a different tool, you'll probably have a different tool, considering, well, for me, where I'd keep it, I've got other tools for different types of jobs. Can I recommend this? Yeah, I think this is pretty cool. I think most people are going to be able to get around that other edge thing and get around some of the other little nitpicks here. But yeah, this is, in fact, it makes a great little gift for somebody who just needs, you know, a pocket knife to, like I said, throw in your vehicle, or just have in a junk drawer. Maybe you just want to EDC it, right? Maybe you really do just want to EDC this and nothing else. Yeah, it makes sense. It fills a lot of roles, or fits a lot of roles, absolutely. So I'm going to be putting this in my most recommended knives playlist. You can check that. Well, actually, the playlist won't be listed down below, but you can go to my channel, go to playlist, check out most recommended knives. This knife will be listed right down below, as well as CRKT knives in general, so you can see what else they've got going on. Thanks again to Nick Shabazz for sending this in for review. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it today. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Come on! These freaking lights and the timers! Thanks again for watching, everybody. And have a great day.